All right, for this assignment, we're just going to be 3D modeling a table of any sort. It can have any dimensions that you would like. It can be a coffee table or a dining room table or a nightside table or a picnic table, whatever you want. So we're going to be 3D modeling that, and then you're going to be 3D modeling a beverage container that is going to sit on top of that table. And this is going to be part one of the assignment, and then we're going to continue on once we've got this model. So I just want to go into a couple techniques that I used when creating this table. So here we go. I'll just start a new drawing, and I'll be creating this oval coffee table here, and the coffee mug as well. All right, so I'm starting with the template, but it doesn't matter if you do or not. So I'm just going to delete what I had on that template originally. And I'm going to start obviously with the 2D drawing. So I'm going to start with an ellipse, and I have a good idea of what I want my dimensions to be. So I'm not going to worry too much about being at 0, 0. I want my coffee table to be about 4 feet. So the radius is going to be 24. And I'm going to work in inches here. So that's going to be the length. And then I'm just going to see what looks good as far as the width. And I would say about 10. Radius of 10 works pretty good. So that's going to be the outline of the tabletop. And then I'm going to put what we call like a apron of the table in. So for that, I need to know the center of my ellipse. So I'm just going to put a line there temporarily, and then I'm going to create a rectangle that looks like it should fit in, and I can adjust it later if I need to. And I'm going to mark the center of that as well, or have a line to reference the center. So now I'm going to move that in to the center here. I'm going to take off ortho mode. And that works pretty good. I might bring it in just a touch more. So I'm going to grab it from that grab point and just bring it in another inch on either side. Okay, I'm going to get rid of that reference line for both the geometries. And now I'm going to create an offset. My offset, I want it to be 0.75 or 3/4 of an inch. Offset it to the center. And so now this rectangle here, offset rectangle, is going to act as the apron for my table. Now I want to create the 2D geometry for the legs. So I'm going to create some guidelines in each of the corner of the offset, like so. And now I'm going to place some circles. I'm going to put some circular legs in here, and I want them to be 1.25 or 1.25 inch in diameter. Once I got one, I'm just simply going to use the copy command, grab it from the center, and then place it on each of the 4 corners. Alright, this is pretty much my 2D geometry that I need. So now I'm going to change my view to southeast isometric and adjust it a little bit just simply by orbiting. And now I'm going to extrude the tabletop up 0.75. So in woodworking, typically your tabletops are going to be 3/4 of an inch, so 0.75. And I can change my visual effect here to conceptual. just to make a little more sense. Now I'm gonna press pull the apron down. So one option you have, if you look at the command bar, is you have option pick multiple bounded areas. So you can pick all the bounded areas that make up the apron, the rectangle offset, all at once. Okay, and then I'll press spacebar, and the height, I want it to come down 2.5 inches. So it's a good idea before creating your table to have like a good sort of idea of what you want the dimensions to be. Or you can kind of play around with it as you go and see what looks pretty decent. Alright, now I'm going to take the circles that I've created and I'm going to extrude them all down. Oops, I didn't mean to press enter. I'm going to select them all at once. So I'm going to have to do this one time. And I might change my visual style to 2D wireframe, which is going to allow me, I think, to pick each circle a little more readily without the solids getting in the way. Okay, so now I have each of those circles selected. I'm going to go to the extrude command. And for my particular table, I want there to be a taper to them. So as the leg comes down, it's going to get skinnier. So I'm going to go to taper angle of 1, which is the default. And then it's going to ask for the height, and I want them to be 18, but I want them to extrude down the opposite direction this time. So it's going to be -18. So rather than coming up and through the tabletop that I've created, it's now going to come down along the apron. Okay. So let's go to a realistic, and that's what my table looks like here. It's not horrible. Another thing I'm going to want to do is I want to create a profile along the edge of the ellipse tabletop. So I'm going to go to solid tab here. I can go to fillet edge, and I'm going to click on, I'll set a radius of 0.375, which happens to be half of 0.75, the thickness of my tabletop. And I'm going to click that edge as well as that edge. And enter again to accept it. So now I have a rounded edge there on my tabletop, which gives it a mid-century modern look, which I appreciate quite a bit. Alright, so that's my table. And as I mentioned in the description of the assignment, we're going to add on to that. So we're going to be rendering it and giving it texture and color and light and stuff like that. So we're going to leave that for now. But in the meantime, we're going to create our coffee mug that's going to go along with it. So what I'm going to do, just to make it a little, just to show you how to move something in place, I'm going to make the coffee mug off the table initially. So here, as you can see, my UCS, I have the Y and the X plane matching the visual, how I'm visually looking at the screen right now. So I'm looking at the top, which matches my YX. So when I draw a circle, it's going to draw on that particular plane, which is great. So my coffee cup is going to have a diameter of 3. And now I'm going to orbit around and I'll extrude it up 4. Alright, so there we go. Now I'm going to create another circle on top of that. So you'll notice I have my dynamic UCS highlighted. So as soon as I go to a circle, command and hover over the surface that I want to create the circle, it's going to go blue. So I'm creating on the proper surface. And now I'm going to make this circle is going to be, I think, 2.5. Which is going to leave me half an inch all around as, or a 1/4 inch all around for the inside of my mug. So once I got that circle, I'm going to press pull it, and I'm going to press pull downwards. So it's going to go negative 2.75. So now if I orbit around, you can see it has bored out a hole in the mug, which is great. And I would also like to add a fillet. So for this fillet, I'm going to set the radius at 0.125, which is 1/8 of an inch. And we're going to use the loop because we're dealing with a round geometry. I'll press space again to select that, accept that. I'm going to do, if I want to go into the same command I was in, you can just press spacebar again. I'm going to select this edge as well. You can select more than one at a time, so I'm going to select that bottom one as well and press space to accept, and there we have a nice fillet all around so that you're not cutting your mouth every time you take a sip of coffee. Okay, so now I'd like to have a handle on that particular mug. So to do that, we're going to use a tool that you might not be too familiar with. We're going to use the sweep command. So first of all, I'm going to create some geometry how I want the handle of the mug to look. So I'm going to use this here. This is a polyline. So it's going to create a continuous line. And I'm just going to create it off the mug initially. And I'm going to go to arc here. Now, we have a bit of a problem here because as you can see, the UCS is oriented so we're looking at the Z and the X axis. So even though I'm trying to draw upwards right now, I can't see that until I orbit around. So that's what I'm actually drawing, which was not my intention. So let's go back. So what I got to do is I got to switch over that UCS. So I'm looking at the Y and the X. And to do that, we're going to go up to this icon here to where it says view under the coordinates. And by clicking this, it's going to match the view that we're looking at the object at with our XY plane, which is how we draw 2D geometry. So I'm going to click that and you'll notice now I'm looking at a Y and an X there. So this time when I go to polyline and I go to create my handle, I'm going to do something like that. So I've gone to polyline. Let me do that again. So polyline, I'll erase what I have. Polyline. Now I'm going to click on arc. So polyline is like a continuous line. Let's try that one more time. can do it this way, I suppose. But once I click arc, it's going to make a continuous line by creating an arc. Okay, let's do it one more time. Okay, that looks pretty good for a handle. I'm going to press escape. And what I'm going to do here, so this is going to be what we call our path. So now I want to create what that particular body is going to look like. So I'm going to create the body here, which is going to be round. And then I'm going to go under extrude to the flyout. You have something called sweep. It's going to prompt me to click the geometry, the object, and then the path. So the arc that I created is going to be the path. So once I press enter or spacebar, I'm going to click on the path there, and now it's used this geometry and that path to create this particular shape. So I don't need that object anymore. But what I do need to do is put the handle onto the mug. So I'm going to do that by going to 3D move up here. It's going to tell me to click on the object. I'm going to click on the, let's go to the center of the arc there. Let's see if I can grab something. Some sort of snap on the mug. So that didn't work too good. Let me try something else. I'm going to highlight that. 3D move. And I'm going to go to the top. And I'm going to try to stick it on to the top of the mug. One more try here. Top, and what I'm looking for is the quadrant of the mug. So I'm just going to make sure that that's highlighted. It is. Oh, and there's my quadrant point, so that works right there. So now I've snapped it to that quadrant point, and obviously it's a little high. So at this point, all I gotta do is click on it and drag it down. I'm just simply gonna eyeball it, take off my object snap, and place it where I would like it to go. Whatever looks good. So I'll orbit around, and that looks mighty fine to me. Alright. So I'm gonna look at it from the top position here. And my mug is created at the same plane as the bottom of the tabletop. So that's because I extruded the tabletop upwards 0.75 when I first started. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight that and move up my mug and then press 0.75, and that's going to move it up. So now it lines up with the top of the tabletop. And now I can move it over onto the table. But because I'm looking at it orthographically, I'm not sure if it is on, but in this case, indeed it is. And there we go. We have a beverage container on top of a 3D model of a beverage container on top of a 3D model of a table. And that would be 100%. Okay, so use maybe hopefully some of those skills are going to be able to translate into you creating your particular table and your beverage container. Hope that helps.